and welcome to Crime and Court. My name is Heather, and this is another episode, another trial episode. We're working through the trial of the Netflix Making a Murderer, the hit series Making a Murderer. We are walking through the transcripts right now. We've gone through, on my channel, I've gone through a bunch of information. We've gone through reports, police reports. We've gone through Brendan Dassey's interrogations, Steven's interrogations. We've gone through a bunch of stuff. So now we are actually, unfortunately, we don't have the trial and on audio or recorded anywhere, so we are going to have to read through the transcripts. So I'm going to do that for you. Unfortunately, you have to hear my voice, but I'm willing to do that for you so that we can dive through this case head on and really look and see what the evidence and what these witnesses say. It's fun to listen to the witnesses, I think, because we talk about the people in the cases, but then when you get to hear them on the stand, it's kind of interesting. It might be like a different story than what you thought about that person. So anyways, it's just interesting to me to see the credibility of certain witnesses. Anyway, so we went through opening statements, and we also have gone through, so the day one, which was February 12th, 2007, and that is the first day of trial. We had opening statements I went through in a separate episode, and then in the state's case part one, we went through Michael Halbach, which is Teresa's brother. We went through his testimony. I didn't read through everybody's. I didn't read Thomas Pierce. He was a photographer who shared his studio space with Teresa, and basically he testified that she didn't show up all week to work, and he hasn't heard from her since. Pretty much the same thing with this David Beach, although he was also involved in the search, but there wasn't really a whole lot there comparatively to the other witnesses. I think, I'm trying to pick out just the key witnesses that are important. Then we moved on to day two. We went through Angela Schuster's testimony. She was the one who employed Teresa at Auto Trader magazine. Dawn Pliska, she didn't really have a whole lot of contact with her. Then we have Dawn Pliska, but she did talk about like faxing and how she was faxed the morning of instead of after all of her appointments were done, which was out of the ordinary for Teresa. So that was something that she did bring up. Then we listened to the testimony from Dawn Pliska. There was actually a proffer where she told the judge, basically, so a proffer is what she might bring to testimony if she's in front of the jury. So you send the jury out of the room, and then the attorneys get right to the meat of whatever it is that the issue is. So they asked her, point blank, and she's like, well, Teresa told me that Steven Avery opened the door in his towel, and it made me uncomfortable, or it made her uncomfortable the last time she went there, but I can't remember when it was said. I don't know what time. I don't have a time frame, blah 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 blah. So they couldn't find a foundation for when it was actually made. She had no reference to tell the attorneys. So with that being said, the judge said, nope, we're not going to put that in because there's no foundation as to when this statement even occurred. And so that part was excluded. But then Dawn did talk to, she did have testimony in front of the jury as to like her speaking with Teresa on the phone. She was the receptionist. So of course she had phone interactions with Teresa. She seemed to have been claiming that they were a lot closer than they really were, because on cross-examination, I think it was Strang, I can't remember if it was Strang or Beauty, I think it was Dean Strang, he questioned her, and it came out that they had never really even met. I think they only met like once, and it was only, very brief conversations that she knew Teresa from on the phone. Just a phone relationship, basically, through work. All right, so Curtis Drum, I did not read through his. I skipped through his. He was the pilot that they had go up and do an aerial search around the Avery auto salvage yard, but he didn't come up with anything because it's 40 acres and you can't find anything. We did not hear from Steven Schmitz. He was the first person that I think he was the first appointment of Teresa's that day. So he was the first one that she went to. And then following him, she went to Joe Ellen's, and we listened to Joe Ellen's testimony, which was interesting. Not a ton there, but she did talk about how, her interactions with Teresa, what she wore, and things like that. So up next, we are still on day 2. We are going through Ryan Hillagas. Remember him? He is the ex-boyfriend of Teresa's, and he was very involved in the search efforts. He also, they hadn't been together for a while. She was 25. They think they dated a little bit in college, but had broken up. So he was, I guess, still in the picture, but we don't really know to what capacity. And I'll get to that when I get to that. Anyways, so here is, I know that was a long entry, but I did want to get us up to speed because I want to go through each witness and at least tell you like who they are or something to the effect of what they might have been testifying to. I'm not going to read, obviously, through 27 days worth of testimony in full. So I'm skipping parts, but we are, for some people, going to read through entire portions of their testimony, which is going to be the case for Ryan Hillagas. So let's get started. Please hit that like button, subscribe, do all those YouTube things before we get into it. All right, so what am I looking for? Here, I have so many windows and things. So we are going to, I gotta get to the right page. We're on day 2, like I said, the trial between Wisconsin versus Steven Avery. Day 2, this took place February 13th, 2007. Ryan Hillagas, ex-boyfriend and maybe still friend, but we don't know to the extent of how close of friends they were. So this is going to be his direct examination by Ken Kratz. So just be thankful you don't have to listen to Ken Kratz do the questioning because, yeah. All right, anyways. Question. Mr. Hillagas, did you know a woman by the name of Teresa Halbach? Yes. How did you know Teresa? I guess she was a longtime friend. We had dated for 5 years or so, end of high school and early part of college. At some point, did you and Ms. Halbach stop being boyfriend-girlfriend? Yes. Did you remain on friendly terms with her? Yes. How often would you speak with her? Maybe once every week, sometimes every couple, but definitely kept in touch every week or two. During the time period of October 2005, were you aware of Miss Halbach's living arrangements? Yes. And what were they, if you recall? She lived in a house with a friend of ours, Scott Bladorn. Scott was also a friend of yours, is that right? Yes. And was it your understanding that Scott and Teresa had any kind of romantic relationship? No romantic relationship. Just roommates? Just roommates. Mr. Hillagas, are you familiar with how close the residence that Teresa lived in was to her parents' house? Yes. Where was it? Her parents lived roughly a quarter-mile down the road. Remember, she was renting a cute little farmhouse. Well, I don't know if it's cute, but in my head, I imagine it was a cute little farmhouse. See, people do that in like their streams and stuff. Like they'll just add their own speculation, not even meaning to. But a lot of people do it and like sensationalize their stories, and I don't ever want to be like that. So I correct myself. I don't know if it was cute or not. So she had a little farmhouse that I think it used to be a school or something. I don't remember. But anyhow, so her parents had a dairy farm. She helped work on the dairy farm. She helped raise her her little sisters and take care of them while her parents worked on the farm and things like that. So she didn't leave. She didn't go very far. She stayed a quarter mile down the road from them. I thought it might be on their property. I'm not sure if she's renting it from them or somebody else owns it. I have no idea, but later it comes out that she rents it, so whatever. Okay, so her parents lived roughly a quarter mile down the road. Question. And are you also familiar with the vehicle that Teresa drove at that time? Yes. Could you tell us about that vehicle, please? It was a RAV4, a blue-green color, combination blue-green. I show you what's been marked as number exhibit 5. Hold on one second. I think that's this one. It's on the large screen. Is that both the photograph of Teresa Halbach and also her RAV4? Yes. All right, so everyone is familiar with this picture. We've all seen it in Making a Murderer. It comes up a lot if you Google search Teresa. It's one of those not famous, infamous. It's one of the few pictures that often come up when you do talk about her. All right, so he says, yes, it's her RAV4. Question. Mr. Hillagas, when was the first time that you heard that your friend Teresa had gone missing? It was Thursday after Halloween, which would have been the 3rd, I believe, of November then. And on November 3rd, can you tell the jury what you did, please? Yeah, in the afternoon, I believe it was, I'm going to say around 3 or so, Scott had called me and said that Teresa's dad had went over and asked if he had seen Teresa. And Scott called me and I went over to the house that afternoon. Basically tried digging up any information on where she might be. We started calling her friends. We found a list of her friends and on her computer with their numbers. Okay, first of all, that right there is suspicious. They found a list of her friends right there with all of their numbers. That's weird to me. Just listen to his testimony and I'm going to stop and tell you when I think it's suspicious. We found a list of her friends on her computer with all of their numbers. And later, I don't know if it's in different testimony or later in his testimony, but there is talk about she had just a folder on her desktop that said Teresa's friends and all of their numbers just were in there. Like, okay. I doubt. I mean, she could have used that as her, contacts list, but it just struck out to me. I don't know. It's just odd, especially when you're going to find out what else they do on the computer. So we found a list of her friends and on her computer with their numbers. So we started calling all them to see if anybody had whereabouts. And then after that, we printed off her cell phone records off the internet just to see what calls she had made or other numbers of friends we could find on there. Let me just stop you at that point, Mr. Hillagas. Finding her cell phone records, how does something like that occur? How did you do that? Well, there were a couple of us that tried figuring it out, basically figured out her password and made up a username that worked and got into her phone records and printed it off. I'm going to repeat that again in case you weren't listening. Well, there were a couple of us that tried figuring it out. Basically figured out her password and made up a username that worked and got into her phone records and printed it right off. I call bullshit. I don't believe Ryan's story. I've been suspicious of him from the beginning, and I'm not saying he did something to her, but I really feel like he gives off stalker vibes. So, and I mean, he might be the nicest guy ever. I have no idea. But to me, his testimony really sticks out. You don't just make up somebody's password and username, or you don't just think it up. That doesn't happen. I don't know why that is a valid excuse and how that didn't raise more flags in the investigation. But anyways, so, well, there were a couple of us. Okay, I'm not going to read it a third time. Sorry. Question. Had you known at that time that she hadn't been seen since the 31st of October? Basically, I knew she was missing. I'm going to read that again. Basically, I knew she was missing. How do you know that? How do you know she's missing? I didn't know she hadn't been seen by anybody, but I knew that she was missing, or decided that she was missing at that point. Just the wording there is a little odd to me. All right, so question, after printing off or getting access to her cell phone records, I assume to her account, through her cell phone provider, were you able to provide that information to law enforcement authorities? Yes. You said that you had called some people. What kind of calls were you making? Well, we called all her friends and basically just said that, we hadn't seen her and wondering whereabouts. None of those people really turned anything up. None of those people really turned anything up for us. Sorry, just read the same line twice. And then we had got a good list of the last number she had called and numbers on her phone. How did they get that? Question. Now, on the 3rd, by the way, that would be the first day that she had been reported missing. Is that your understanding? Yes. On the 3rd, were there other friends or other family members who were assisting you in the search efforts? Yes, yeah, it was me, Scott Bladorn, one of her girlfriends, Kelly Blitzen, came over. I believe a little later, another friend named Lisa was over as well. About how long that evening did you work on this project, he says. Project. I don't get that phrase. All right, so, well, for the good portion of the night, probably, I guess, until midnight 1. No, you weren't calling people, Ryan, until 1 in the morning, midnight. That didn't happen. It's not true. We were calling friends and other people that we didn't get a hold of, and people that were finally returning calls later, better portion of the night. I could see maybe going into 10 o'clock at night, maybe 11. You weren't going into 1 in the morning. People aren't calling you back at the time. All right, so the next day, the 4th, Friday, the 4th of November, did you become again actively involved in the search for Teresa? Yes. Tell the jury what you did, please. Yeah, that afternoon, it was probably late morning, but I had talked to the family and they had arranged with the Missing Persons Organization of Appleton. They were printing up flyers, missing persons flyers, and they just asked me if I could pick them up and arrange, how we could get them out. That was kind of the afternoon. I went and picked up the posters, probably early afternoon, noon, 1 o'clock. And when I had gotten back then to Teresa's house, there was a good number of family members and friends who were waiting to basically find out what they can and go pass the flyers out. I will show you what's been received as Exhibit 10. Are these the missing persons posters that you were talking about? Hold on, I didn't see that exhibit. I actually have a list of all the exhibits here. Oh, here's the missing persons. Let me let's take a look at it. Download it and we're going to take a look at it. All right, so here we go. It's really blown up. But yeah, so that is a nice picture they used of her. It said endangered missing. If you have any information, please contact the Youth Educated and Safety Group or yes. So, all right, so Teresa was last seen on Monday, October 31st in the Manitowoc, Two Rivers area, but may have been traveling further to Green Bay or the Fox cities. She was driving a 1999 dark green Toyota RAV4 license plate number SWH582. She was wearing blue jeans, white button-down shirt, and a spring jacket. So there you have it. That was really hard to read, but got it. Okay. Back to our transcript here. All right, so that was Exhibit 10. Are these the missing person posters that we are talking about? Yes. Somewhere, I don't know, probably between, oh wait, hold on. Where was I? Oh, here. About how many posters, sorry, it just like flipped pages and I didn't see where it went. All right, so about how many of those posters did you assist in not only having produced, but in distributing? I'm going to estimate, but probably, geez, somewhere, I don't know, probably between 1,000 and 2,000, maybe 3,000. They were all over the place, I guess. I also call bullshit. That's a lot of posters for one person to put out. I don't know. So I really think he's embellishing by a lot. Not to say that he didn't put posters out, but he didn't put out that many. All right, so question, did you receive assistance from her employer or at least one of her employer's Auto Trader magazine to handle the flyers? Just to get information from them. I never spoke with anybody from Auto Trader. Okay, an organization that did help you though, and it's at the top left of the corner. It's the Youth Educated in Safety. Is that right? Yes. This missing persons search organization, did they provide you with some technical and other support? Yes. The distribution efforts, that is, getting these posters out, who was in charge of that? I guess I was kind of the unofficial leader, coordinator of the effort, if you can call it that. How many people did you have to help? Well, when I got back to the house that day, there were, I'm estimating here, but probably between 30 and 45 people. That was just the first afternoon when we handed them out. But then we had contacted truck stops and faxed flyers. We had people just stopping by throughout the day to pick up flyers just to put them out anywhere we could. I know there were people out pretty late on Friday night and still putting up flyers and driving city to city. Did your efforts, Mr. Hillagas, include the media? A little bit, yes. And this information about the missing person, where she was last seen, and those kinds of things, was that distributed to the media as far as you know? Yeah, and they had flyers too, so... Now, with you being whether you want to call it official or unofficial, being the coordinator of this citizen search effort on that Friday, that is, the day after Teresa was reported missing, what other efforts were being developed to try to find Teresa? Well, after Friday, and we had the posters out, basically kind of through the instruction of the Yes Foundation and their recommendations. First, they wanted us to get flyers out and make as many people aware as we could all about Teresa and that she was missing. After that, it was kind of to go a little more and basically to search. Friday night, after the posters were done being handed out, we had gotten back, and me and Scott for most of the night decided we kind of planned a road search, I guess you could call it, where everybody got in their vehicles and drove certain parts of roads and maps that we had plotted out for them just to make sure that we covered everything. But so Friday night, we pretty much planned on an all-day road search and went on Saturday with volunteers again. That's a long answer. Question. Well, Friday night, you said you were making some maps. How was that done? Satellite imagery off the internet mostly, otherwise just MapQuest. Maps of what? Maps of, the areas we wanted to search. We kind of blew up smaller portions so you could see the roads better and county highways out in the Manitowoc area near the Averys. any kind of county highway. Basically, we tried to cover anything from Hilbert to Green Bay, all the way to the lake, pretty much covering as much land as we could. Well, this was a citizen search effort, is that right? Yes. In other words, family members and friends, and very, very much so just a citizen effort coordinated by you. Is that right? Yes. Let me ask you something, Mr. Hillagas. Why would you center or why would you direct some of your search efforts around the Avery property? Well, mostly for the fact that, the media had covered so much of it, all you heard about was around the Avery property. And I believe at that point, we had known that, her last kind of whereabouts were in that neck of the woods. Question. So, even as an untrained law enforcement officer, you knew to look for the last place she was seen alive. Is that right? Yes. Okay. It didn't strike you as being unfair or unfair to Mr. Avery, did it? No. All right. Now, these physical searches, you said the road searches and things like that, how many people were involved in that effort? Well, throughout the day on Saturday, there were people kind of coming and going, people getting up late, work late in the morning, still wanted to help. Estimate, say probably Saturday's effort was a little bigger than Friday, probably between 80 and 110 people, I would guess. All right, so over 100 of Teresa's friends and family and relatives were gathered to look for her Saturday morning. Is that right? Yes. What time did you all convene and where did this happen? Everybody met at Teresa's house. I believe everybody was there early, probably 6:30. A good portion of them were there by that time. That's really early. So I don't know if I believe that they were there at 6. But he says, I would say between 6 and 7 is when everybody got there. Keep that in mind because you're going to hear something totally different from Pam Sturm. But she does say that she was like the last ones there. So. All right, so question. Tell us about that morning. What happened that morning? Well, everybody pretty much met in the driveway. Me and Scott, by that point in the morning, had all the maps arranged. But we had a larger map that we had printed out with kind of smaller section areas that we printed smaller maps out for everybody to use. Basically had everybody line up and come in the back of the house and they were to walk through. Once they got in the kitchen, we kind of gave them an assignment, groups of 1 car or 2. I think he means groups of 1 or 2 to a car, but whatever. Okay, we would give the same map to and have them all cover the same area to make sure all the roads were all covered. But everybody had an assignment. When they were done with their assignment, pretty much instructed to call back and we would give them a new assignment or a new assigned area to cover, one that hadn't been sent any people to yet. Question. Just kind of a grid search? Basically, yes. All right. Do you know Pam Sturm or her daughter Nicole Sturm? Yes. How do you know Pam and Nicole? I had met them Saturday morning. They showed up after the good majority of everybody else had left. So they do show up late. All right. But that was the first time I had met them. After then, the first wave, if you will, of citizens got their maps and they went off to do their search. What did you and Pam Sturm discuss? Well, Pam had showed up pretty much after pretty much the whole group of everybody had already left to search in the morning. And we had a good, so many people, we had a good portion of everything that we had divvied up. Good portion of that was already handed out to other people. Wasn't much area left to search yet. And she just asked, basically, come out and said, hey, anybody gone to the car yard yet? The Avery salvage yard? We just said no, that we hadn't been sending anybody in there, and she offered to and said she would be willing to. And objection, Your Honor, hearsay, Mr. Kratz. Not offer for the truth, Judge. It's where Pam eventually goes. I can certainly go on to another question. I'm not inquiring any further into conversations. The court says, assuming that witness is going to be testifying later, I will agree. I will allow it. Mr. Kratt says, before Pam left, then, to travel to the Avery salvage yard, was she provided a map or any other information? Yes, I gave her a map. What other information was she provided, if you know? I gave her a map about the area out there and how to get there. Scott had borrowed her his camera just in case they were to find something. That is one of my pet peeves, when people say someone borrowed her his camera. That's grammatically incorrect. You say you lent your camera. Do you know what kind of camera it was? A digital camera. I don't know what brand. When you say provided them, who was with Pam? Pam and her daughter. Nicole? Nicole, yes. All right. Do you know about what time Pam and Nicole left then for the Avery property? I'm going to estimate, but I would probably say somewhere between 7:45 and 8, maybe. Sometime later that day, without telling us the words or what you heard. But did you hear some results of what Pam and Nicole Sturm had found out at the location? Yes. Even after Pam and Nicole's discovery later on the 5th, did you and other citizens remain involved in search efforts? Yes. Can you describe those for the jury, please? Well, the car search on Saturday went all day, pretty much into the night again. And Saturday night, then, once everybody was done searching, we went back at the house and started planning our next endeavor to go on, I guess you could say. All right, let me just stop you there. After the SUV was found in this case, you kept searching. You kept your search efforts going. Yes. Why? Well, we hadn't found Teresa. Do you remember what locations your citizens searched for Teresa? Yeah, we went through all the cities, neighboring cities around Manitowoc County. Sunday, we had started doing fields and parks and ditches next to the highways, any place that I guess something could or somebody could be put and not be visibly seen. But Sunday we started doing actual walkthroughs of land and probably near the Averys. It's a hard question, Ryan, but you were looking for Teresa's body, is that right? Yes. Do you continue to receive technical assistance in assigning citizens to this effort? Yes. Who did you get assistance from? Well, basically the Yes Foundation again. We took any advice from them that we could, since Jay Breyer, who was, I guess, the leader of it, or the guy who runs it, he had seemed to have a lot of experience in missing persons cases. Did you personally proceed near the Avery salvage property, and did you engage in searches of the area? Yes. Do you remember where you looked around there? Yes, just briefly. Yeah, we did. Like Marable County Park is near there. We did some private or public land that was pretty much adjacent to Avery property, but behind it all, so probably the quarry that was behind Avery's property. Any fields somewhere around there were outside the police bounds that we could get to. Basically, we searched. Mr. Hillagas, was this all before human remains were found on the Avery property itself? I believe so, yes. After you learned, I assume you learned at some point, that human bones and human remains were found. Is that right? Yes. After that point, did you continue with your search efforts, or did you call them off? No, we called them off. That's all I have of Mr. Hillagas, Judge. Thank you. The court says, all right, I think this will be time for our break. They go to break and then they come back. Recess is taken. Now the jury's present. It's nice to fly through all the unnecessary stuff that you need in real life. Like bathroom breaks and lunch. All right, so cross-examination by Attorney Buting. So he is the one if you're looking at the thumbnail, it is on the furthest to your right. They both have yellow ties, so, and blue shirts. So I can't even. He's the one with the higher forehead. I'll say. And Ken Kratz, if you don't know, was the one on the left, furthest from the left. And then we've got in the middle, I can't remember his name, and then the other one is Norman Gahn. What's the other dude's name? He's back in the case too. Anyways, I explain that in the opening statements or whatever episode. I explained it in another episode. So go back to that episode. Just kidding. So it's Ken Kratz. I'll do that now. Here, so it's Ken Kratz, Thomas Fallon with the glasses, and this particular day, Norman Gahn. It wasn't there, but Norman Gahn is the other prosecutor, the other special prosecutor in this case, and the third one in. Then we've got Dean Strang and Jerry Buting. All right, so whoops. Now I gotta go scrolling back to his cross because I don't have a tab for that. Sorry. Where did it go? Here we go. Okay. That did zoom out, didn't it? Did I zoom it out? I don't know. Here we go. It's better. All right, so cross-examination by Jerry Buting. All right, so question. Mr. Hillagas, can you give me a little bit of background on how long you knew Teresa? Sure. I met Teresa, I believe, when I was a freshman in high school, and I have known her ever since. And did you grow up in the same general town then, I take it? She lived in St. John. I lived in Hilbert. We went to the same high school. And then you went off. How are you employed, by the way? I'm a registered nurse. And where are you working right now? In Milwaukee. At various hospitals? At Froedtert Hospital. Okay. And back in October of 2005, where were you working? I need to make this just slightly bigger. Yeah, that's better. Okay. My eyes suck. Where were you working? I was currently unemployed. I just finished school. Okay, so on October 31st, you were not working at all? That's correct. And where were you living? At home with my parents, which is in Hilbert. In Hilbert. Okay. Now you said that you used to date Teresa kind of off and on, or kind of on and off, or for how long were you on and how long were you off? Well, we dated for a total of 5 years, I think. We broke up 2 or 3 times in the middle for short periods, maybe for a month at a time. So when was the last time you would say when you broke up? 2001, I believe. And now she went missing in 2005, but this trial isn't until 2007, just for frame of reference. All right, so was that your initiative or hers? Just kind of a general understanding, kind of both of us. We were just going separate ways. So, okay. And after that time, did you have any interest in renewing that nature of that kind of a relationship with her? No. Now, Scott Bladorn was also a friend of yours, right? Yes. Was he back in October of 25 your best friend? One of them, yes. Okay, when did he move in with Teresa? I don't know that. Well, was it less than a year? It was less than a year before that Halloween. 8 or 9 months sound about right? It might be, I guess, I'm not sure. Okay, you have been over to that house before, I take it, right? Yes. What's the layout of that house? How is it set up? How was it set up back then? Well, Scott's room was upstairs. Teresa's was downstairs. It was kind of almost an understanding. All Scott's stuff was upstairs and Teresa's was downstairs. They kind of had it split, shared the kitchen and the bathroom. So they had sort of their own floors and separate bedroom on each floor. Yes. And they shared the kitchen, and you said the bathroom? There was one bathroom they shared? Yes. So they would see each other frequently, presumably during the day. Is that yes? Sure, yes. Okay, and did you come over and visit Scott various times while he was living with Teresa? Yes. And this is another reason why I think Ryan might have been a stalker. He might have been having Scott stay there, like he might have arranged or something. Scott was like, yeah, I'm in need of a place. He's like, oh, why don't you go stay at Teresa's? And then that what gives him the ability to go over there and check up on Teresa more often, and to be more in her life because he's friends with her roommate. He can just play it off like, oh, I'm just here to see Scott, but really he's checking up on Teresa. I don't know. And this is all speculation on my part. I admit that, but these are just feelings I get from what I'm reading here. All right, so, and did you come over and visit? Yes. And did you spend time over there, dinner, watching TV or movie or something? Occasionally, yes. Was it, well, I take it then from when you say that you talked with her at least every other week, or every week even, yes. On the phone? Or would you actually get together with her, or what? Either on the phone, or I would see her at the house when I would go visit Scott. Okay, so you were over there. See, I would see her when I would go visit Scott. Okay, so you were over there quite a bit during the last 6 months or so? I wouldn't say quite a bit. Once a week? Occasionally, once a week, maybe. Okay. Over that time, would it be fair to say that you became accustomed with Teresa's habits and routines generally? No, I wouldn't say that. Well, did you know, for instance, was she a homebody? Did she like to go out? She kind of did what she wanted. Sometimes I would go over there and, not see her, and the 3 times that I stopped that week. So before, he just said he would occasionally go over there, and he's like, well, would you go once a week? He's like, occasionally. And now here he's saying I didn't see her the last 3 times I went there that week. Due to stopping there a lot to check up on Teresa, is my opinion. And the following week, I could go there and would be there nights in a row when she would be home every night, just depended. Were you familiar with her circle of friends? Most of them, yes. For instance, she went to UW Green Bay, right? Yes. And she worked in Green Bay? Yes. So she had a lot of friends in Green Bay? Yes. And would she go out socializing with those friends, if you know? Yes. Did you ever go with her when she would socialize with a group of friends? When we were dating, yeah, she was in Green Bay the last 2 years when we were dating. So occasionally then I would go out with her and her friends, but other than that, not really. Would you say she was a sociable person? Generally, yes. She liked to be around people? Yes. She liked to go to parties? Yes. She liked to go to bars? Yes. Particularly karaoke bars, I think, was one of her favorites. I believe so, yes. Okay, and in 2005, were there times when you would go out with her to those kinds of places, either parties or bars? I think the only bar I maybe only went out with her once that whole year, probably, just didn't share that with her. Okay, so just once in a whole year he went out with her. She probably didn't want to go out with him. She probably wanted him away from her. And do you know whether Scott ever went out with her to bars or parties? A few times. I don't believe it was too often. Okay, and when she would be home, do you know whether she would have dinner there or whether she would eat out? You know what she did, what she would do at home? Occasionally she did both. Did she and Scott have dinner together? Not that I'm aware. I mean, maybe they sat down and ate a meal together, but... So you are not that familiar with that with what the evening routine was. Is that what you're saying? No. Okay. Do you know whether it was unusual for her to be out overnight during those last 6 months or so? Occasionally she would. How does he know that? Unless he has Scott Bladorn looking, keeping tabs on her for him. Or he's coming over there every night. Occasionally she would. I know she would go to Green Bay and stay at a friend's house overnight. Okay, let me ask you about the weekend of October 29th and the 30th. 29th being Saturday. Did you see her or talk to her that day? I don't believe I talked to her on Saturday. Don't think so. Okay, did you talk with her or see her on Sunday? Yes. And where was that? At her house. And how did that come about? I had stopped just briefly. I was dropping something off for Scott and she was sitting there at her computer. Do you know what time that was? I don't know. I mean, are we talking morning, afternoon, night? I don't know. You don't remember at all? No. Okay, this is the last time you saw her and you don't remember? And she was just sitting at the computer? Yes. Did you talk to her at all? A little bit, yes. Now, the night before, Saturday night, was sort of Halloween weekend. There would be parties, bar parties, house parties, whatever. Did you chit-chat at all? Talk about that? On Sunday, we had just talked, and she had mentioned that she had a cowgirl hat, and she was going to dress up like a cowgirl, and that was pretty much the extent of it. This was, Saturday or Sunday? Sunday. Okay, did she talk about having gone out the night before, Saturday night at all? No. Do you know from any other information whether she did go out Saturday night? I don't know. Or Sunday night? I don't know that either. And remember, the roommate, Scott Bladorn, says the last time he saw her was Sunday afternoon. He said he didn't see her in the evening, and they lived together. So I don't know if he just, wouldn't have left his upstairs space or what. But yeah, he didn't see her, hadn't seen her all week and never questioned it, never wondered where she was. So he says, I don't know either. You said that you distributed 1,000 to 3,000 posters, roughly, and that that she had friends helping out, including friends in Green Bay calling some friends. Is that right? Yes. This was on November 3rd when you called the friends, right? That was Thursday, yes. Yeah, Thursday, but you said none of those people were particularly helpful, giving you any information about her. Most of them hadn't seen her for a while. That's correct. With all those posters out, all that publicity, did anybody ever come back to talk to you, tell you where Teresa was on Saturday night? No. October 29th. Not that I remember. So that night is an unknown in her life. Is that right? I don't know of what happened that night with her. Would it be fair to say that Teresa had a private side as well that you didn't know about? And this, my friends, is one of the things that I was searching through documents and found some interesting emails about Teresa. That's going to definitely be another episode. So I'll just leave it at that and leave it as a teaser. So if you are not subscribed to my channel, please make sure that you do. All right. So next, Ryan's answer is no, I don't think so. I don't think she had a private side. So let me reread the question. Sorry. Would it be fair to say that Teresa had a private side as well that you didn't know about? Ryan says, no, I don't think so. I don't think she had a private side that I didn't know about. We were pretty open with each other. We talked a lot. Dude, you're dreaming if you think that your ex-girlfriend's telling you everything. But also, that's a lie. And also, I really do think that he's being suspicious here. I mean, don't you guys? I mean, what an egomaniac to think oh no, Teresa didn't hide anything from me. We were best friends. Come on. Why'd you break up then? All right, so question. Well, if she had gone out Saturday night with somebody or someplace and you know nothing about it, would that surprise you? Objection, relevance, judge, misrebuting. I will withdraw it. Very well. So, the last time you actually saw Teresa was Sunday. Yes. You never talked with her on the phone after that? No. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you never called her? No. Well, that's not correct. I did call her somewhere in the middle of the week and I did not get an answer, and her voicemail had said that it was full. Okay, do you remember what day that was? No, I don't. Thursday? Wednesday? I called her on Thursday when I realized she was missing. So first you just said you didn't remember, and now you're saying it was Thursday. But I believe I called her once earlier in the week. Okay, so when you first learned, you learned it was Scott that came over. Or, I'm sorry. Let me start over. Okay, so when you first learned, you said it was Scott that came over. Did he come over or call you, or what did he do? He called me. Called you and said that he wanted your assistance, or what? He just called and said that Teresa's dad had come over to his work site and asked him if he had seen her recently. And Scott had called me on his way home just asking if I had talked to her, asking if I could come over and help. Now, you said that Scott's work site. What is that? Scott worked construction. I don't know where his work site was, but usually they did kind of local housework. So if he's working in a local house or something, how the heck does Teresa's dad know where Scott's working? That doesn't make any sense to me. All right, so anyways, so I don't know where he was working, but usually they did housework. Okay, did you ask Scott if he had tried to call Teresa at all during the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? I don't know. May have called. Is that what you are saying? I don't know. Did you think that it was odd that 3 or 4 days had gone by without Scott coming forward and saying, "Where is she?" No. Why is that not odd? That didn't strike you as odd at all? No. Why not? Well, they were kind of on differing schedules. Teresa worked for herself and Scott worked construction. So he would be up and out of the house by 5:30, 6 in the morning. A lot of times I know Teresa didn't get up or go to work until 9 or 10. And again, how do you know that so well, Ryan? Like, how do you guys hadn't dated in years. It's been 4 years and you know her schedule that well? This is very fishy to me. That he knows it very well or he's making it up. I don't know. One or the other. So, did you know Scott's schedule? Fairly well, yes. But you didn't know where he was working. Is that what you're saying? I didn't know what site they were on that day. On any given day? On any given day, for that matter. Occasionally, I would know just from driving by and seeing him on the side of the road working on a house. But, okay, what kind of construction did he do? Rough work, rough framing, carpenter work. Yes. Now, when you went over there to her house on Thursday, you said Scott had already found some kind of information, or no? No. And what did you do first? How did you start to gather information about who to call? I just started looking through all her records. She had filing cabinets set next to her computer. Kind of her business workstation, I guess. Just started looking through those files, turned her computer on, and there was actually she called an icon that was named Teresa's Friends. Clicked on that, and her friends basically popped right up with phone numbers. I don't buy that. Was this a laptop? It was. Okay, and what did you do first? You talked about going online with her phone records, or did you call her friends first? Well, we got the phone list and her friends and started calling them. And I guess you could probably say it kind of all went down at the same time. We were calling friends and it was me and Scott. And Kelly Bitson was calling friends as well, and we were kind of working on getting her phone records at the same time. How soon did Kelly Bitson arrive? How long were you and Scott there together before she arrived? I'm going to estimate and say between 6, something like that. What's that? She arrived like 6 or 7, something like that. Yeah, she was there a few hours after I got there, I believe. She was one of the first people. Okay, that we called of her friends. Now, tell me about this online search. You tried calling her phone and it was full, right? Yes. Did you know her voicemail password? No. Did you ever? So you didn't call and listen to her voicemail at all? No. Never? No. Never did that day or before? No. Or since? Okay. And she had never shared her password with you for the online records either? No. So you just went online to Singular Wireless or whatever.com and just guessed her password? Well, me and Kelly Bitson had just kind of figured that it would be fairly something relating to her sisters. I think it was one of their birthdays, but got into it for us. I'm not exactly sure what the password was. Bullshit. That whole thing about him, that whole story is not reliable whatsoever. Question. Well, in my opinion, you guys can form your own opinions, but I think that is unreliable. I think he's lying. I don't know if he did anything to her, but I definitely think he's lying. Question. But you didn't know what her username was? No, I believe that automatically came up when you entered her phone number in. You just need the password. Okay, and that's the first time you ever tried to search her phone record or use that password? Yeah. Do you know if anybody else knew her voicemail password? I don't know that. Or if anybody else listened to her voicemails? I don't know that either. All right. By the time that Calumet County investigators arrived, I take it you guys were pretty concerned about Teresa's well-being, where she was, yes. And you knew that it was important that you provide as much information, as accurate information as you could. Yes. Did the police interview you and Scott together, or did they put you into separate rooms when they talked to you, or how did they do that? I believe we were in the same room, which is like Investigator 101. You split up the people, the suspects, and they both should have been suspects. Both of them. All right, question. Okay, now, did the investigators ask you any questions about the nature of your relationship with Teresa? Yeah. And they learned that you were a former boyfriend, stayed good friends with her? Well, I believe I just said that I was a friend of hers. I don't think I mentioned that I was an ex-boyfriend. Okay. They didn't pursue that and ask if you had ever had anything more than a relationship. Is that what you're saying? I believe so. It came out eventually. I just didn't feel that it mattered. Let me try again. Ask it again, please. Did the police ever probe further and ask if you had the nature of your relationship with her beyond whether there was ever anything more than friendship? I don't think they really probed into that. I mean, I don't remember when it came out or who was the one that mentioned that we used to date. Okay, but it wasn't talked about that night. I don't believe so. When they were trying to find out what was happening or what had happened to this missing persons, right? Yeah. And if Scott was there with you, then did they ask Scott the nature of his relationship with Teresa? Yeah. Did they ask any kind of probing questions about whether he was intimately involved with her? Objection, relevance, judge. Is this a Calumet County bias? That's my objection, Mr. Buting. Mr. Buting says, investigative biases are relevant no matter who is doing the investigation involved in the case. The court says, I don't know if this really falls under bias. I will allow the question. The witness says, please ask me again, and Mr. Buning continues. Did the investigators probe the nature of Scott's relationship at all to see, as to whether or not there was any kind of an intimate relationship between the two of them? I don't believe they probed into it. I believe he just said that he was a roommate and a friend. Okay, so a single man living in a house with a single woman, but that was the extent of it. Just roommates? Yes. And as far as you knew, that was the extent of their relationship as well? Yes. Scott never told you otherwise. That's correct. Teresa never told you otherwise. That's correct as well. And your recollection is that you don't know when your former boyfriend status ever came up. It was sometime down several days later. That's correct. Wasn't like the next day. May have been. Like I said, I don't know when it came up. I would think that's probably something you would not want to keep from, or that's something, if you were the ex and possibly had something to do with it, you definitely wouldn't want the police to suspect you, so you wouldn't say that you were an ex. So that's suspicious that he didn't say that he was an ex. And if he was just being honest, you would think, it would come out eventually anyways that he was an ex. So I don't know what to make of this. What do you think, guys? All right, so he doesn't remember when it came out. Okay, so going to the next day for a minute. Now, let's just go to November 4th. You mentioned that, well, let me go back for a minute. You mentioned that you had this meeting sort of on Thursday night, the 3rd, and that you and Scott and Kelly, and is that it, or do other friends come over? I believe her friend Lisa was over, but not until quite a bit later that night. Okay, and so the plan was made to contact this organization. Yes, the next day, make posters. No, actually, the family was in contact with Yes. Okay, so that was something that came up later. Yes. So on the 4th, after you had all these posters made up and you had another meeting that late afternoon or evening, Friday, to talk about where to go from there. Yeah, Friday night after the posters were done being handed out. Okay, and you said that you downloaded satellite images and maps and were kind of trying to figure out how to divide up different areas, right? Yes. And you were asked about why you directed any efforts towards the Avery resident, blah, blah, sorry, let me rephrase that. Try again. And you were asked why you were directed any efforts towards the Avery area on direct by Mr. Kratz. Do you recall that? Yes. And I believe you said it was because the media had the information and the media was already seeming to focus on Mr. Avery. Is that right? I don't think it was Avery himself. I believe it was just that we knew her last whereabouts were out in Manitowoc County. Okay. And had you seen any interviews with Mr. Avery at that point, or any news people coming down and talking to people on the Avery property? I don't know if I had seen any interviews. I guess I was out putting posters up most of the day. But you did know that by the time the word was out in the media that the last known place, at least that they thought the last known place had been the Averys, right? Yes. And so that would have been true for anybody's knowledge, not just yours, anybody watching the media. Yes. Now, the next morning, then, when you started dividing up things, Scott was with you, right? Yes. And was Scott helping you assign people different places? Yes. And when the Sturms arrived, you said that Scott had borrowed Pam a camera. Is that right? Yes. Had lent her, given her a camera. I like that he corrects him. It says lent because it's, like I said, one of my biggest pet peeves. He quotes his own words right back at him, like, you had borrowed Pam Sturm a camera, right? And then he's like, you had lent, given her a camera. Yes. A digital camera. Yes. He didn't give every one of those members Saturday morning a camera, did he? No. He just gave it to Pam Sturm, who he knew was going out or was going to go to the Avery salvage yard. That's correct. The only person he gave a camera to, right? Yes. And during this entire missing persons period, that is, before the RV was, or RAV4 was found, did the police ever ask you for any kind of alibi on October 31st? No. They never asked your whereabouts whatsoever. I don't believe so. Okay, anybody point blank ever ask you if you had any knowledge about her disappearance or were involved in it? I don't know if they had it. I'm sorry, hold on. I don't know if they did it like that. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they did it like that, like they were accusing me, but of course, people asked me if I had talked to her or knew anything, and that's why I was up there to help. Okay, and to your knowledge, did you ever hear the police ever ask Mr. Scott Bladorn, if he had an alibi for Monday, October 31st in the evening, late afternoon hours? I don't know that. So it would be fair to say that you weren't in any way treated like a suspect that you could tell. That's correct. And even on the 5th and thereafter, when the search narrowed into the Avery's area and surrounding areas, the police actually let you through some checkpoints along with some other searchers, you leading them to come and search the area, right? Yes. So within the parameter of the area around the Avery property that they had made off limits to the general public, right? Yes. And was that true for Scott as well? Yes. That's all I have. And there is redirect and some more, Kratz's redirect. I'll just read it really quick because it's very short. So here's Kratz's redirect. Just so we're clear, Mr. Hillagas, the area that you were allowed access to was the outside of the Avery property itself. In other words, the surrounding properties not within the salvage yard. Is that true? Yes. That's all I have, Judge. All right, so the next witness is Pam Sturm. And we're going to, let's get rid of Ryan here. So Pam is up next. Pam is the cousin of Teresa Halbach. She also found the RAV4. She was called directly after Ryan on day 2, February 13th, 2007. All right, so we're not going to read all of hers, but we are going to read a portion of it. All right, so Pam is called as witness. She's sworn in and all that stuff. And now we got direct examination from Kevin Kratz again. Good afternoon, Miss Sturm. Describe for the jury, if you will, whether you knew a woman named Teresa Halbach. Yes, I did. She was my second cousin. Her father, Tom Halbach, is my first cousin. Miss Sturm, sometime after the 3rd of November, after Teresa was reported missing, do you volunteer to become involved in search efforts for Teresa? Yes, I did. Can you describe for the jury how you first became involved? On November 4th, I saw a news release at like 10 in the morning, and it was a Friday morning, and it said that they showed Teresa's picture, and it was Teresa that was missing. And as soon as I got home from work, I called my sister, and she didn't know anything about it, so I waited until night, and I called my other first cousin, Betty Halbach, who is Tom Halbach's sister, and I asked her if that was correct, and she said that it was. Teresa is missing. Okay, when was it, Miss Sturm, that you first became involved in actually searching for Teresa? Well, that Friday night when I had talked to Betty, I said, anything I can do for you, anything I can help with, I will certainly help. And she had called back like an hour later and said there was going to be a search tomorrow at probably 9. And I said, well, I would be happy to help. Remember, Ryan said 6 or 7, so she's showing up at 9. The next morning, then, on Saturday the 5th of November, did you go to the rendezvous place? In other words, the place where everybody else was meeting? Yes, I did. It's an old farmhouse where Teresa was renting, and I met with two gentlemen, Ryan and Scott, and they were organizing a search team. Just so I can complete the record, that would be Ryan Hillagas and Scott Bladorn. That's correct. All right. Who did you go there with? My daughter, Nicole Sturm, came with me. Who is Nicole? Oh, I'm sorry. How old is Nicole? Nicole is 29 years old. About what time did you arrive at the residence, if you recall? I estimated it at around 9 p.m. When you got there, Pam, what happened? Oh, I'm sorry, 9 a.m. I don't know how I got p.m. 9 a.m. When you got there, Pam, what happened? Well, we got there late. The search team was already gone. Ryan and Scott were still there. I had asked them if I could help out, and they said yes. They have maps for the area that they were going to search, and he showed me the map, and then he showed me the picture of Teresa and all the details regarding Teresa. Considering that that Pam and Nicole are the ones that actually find the RAV4 and they show up late and are given a camera and all these interesting facts, I think add up to the point that it is suspicious that Pam is getting this special treatment. She was told 9, but everybody else was there at 6 or 7 in the morning, and when she shows up, they give her a camera and a map to go into the search area that is off limits to the rest of the public. Anyways, and I indicated that I would like to go. It's actually private property, but she goes and asks for permission. What did I say? And he showed me a map and showed me the picture of Teresa and all the details regarding Teresa, and I indicated that I would like to go to the Avery salvage yard where Teresa was last seen, and he said, well, if you want to, it's not part of, the search, but if you wish to do that, go ahead. Okay. About what time then let me back up a minute. Prior to going to the Avery salvage property, did you receive anything from either of those gentlemen? I received a map and I received a bulletin that showed Teresa's picture and all her details. So probably the poster is what they gave her. Did you get anything else that you can recall? I also forgot my camera, so I thought I should, try to get a camera and see if Scott or Ryan had a camera in case we came across something on the property. And I believe it was Scott's camera and he lent it to us. Do you remember what kind of camera it was? It was just a digital camera as far as I know. So the jury understands it was you that asked for the camera. Yes, I did. Ms. Sturm, were you familiar with the Avery salvage property? No, I'm not. I wasn't at all. All I knew, it was a 40-acre lot salvage yard for vehicles. Did you proceed to that location? Yes, we did. About what time did you and Nicole arrive at that location? I approximate the time about 10 minutes to 10, right around that time. So that was the time that they arrived, 10:10. Okay. So 10 minutes to 10. So 9:50 a.m. Okay, I'm showing you what's been marked and received as Exhibit 35, Ms. Sturm. It is directly to the right of your screen. Do you see that? Will that aerial photo assist you in explaining for the jury where you and Nicole went upon arrival? And I'm going to kind of skip through how she explains it because... Wait, no, she's not there yet. I might skip through some of her stuff when she starts getting to the, because it's just confusing how she explains it. He says, I think I misspoke. It's Exhibit 25. I'm sorry. I'm going to take a laser pointer. Do I have that one? I think so. So, maybe not. All right. He says, I'm going to take a laser pointer. Do you recognize the road that comes in from Highway 147? This is, yes, the business itself, that is the office building and the like. Now, do you recognize the orientation? Yes. All right, about 10 to 10, so 9:50, sometime before 9 in the morning. Could you tell the jury what happened? Well, we drove in and we noticed that there were 3 driveways to the salvage yard, and it appeared to be the center driveway was probably the one we should take. So we did take that one. Miss Sturm, you are going to have to back up just about 3 inches from the microphone, okay? It's distorting your voice. I was in my car and we pulled up in front of the main building. And on Exhibit 25, can you tell what that was? Can you point to it? I believe that's this one. When we got to the location, what did you do? When we got to the location, there were a few cars parked to the right of us, and we saw 2 gentlemen conversing. But we went into the building to see if we could find any of the owners of the property, and there was no one inside, so we exited. After exiting, did you in fact find one of the owners of the business, and did you in fact talk to him? Yes, we did. The 2 gentlemen that were conversing by the vehicle, they stopped conversing, and I walked up to them and I said, is any one of you an Avery, an owner of this property? And he said yes, and he walked over to us and he said his name was Earl. So brother Earl, who's him and Chucky run pretty much the business now. Just very quickly, going to show you a photograph. Is this the gentleman that you spoke with, Earl? Avery. Yes, that's correct. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. What happened then? Well, I told them that we were volunteers from the search party, and I said it would relieve Karen and Tom's mind Teresa's parents' minds, if we could go through the property and make sure that the vehicle, Teresa's vehicle, wasn't there. And Earl said, yeah, I know how it is because I just lost a nephew and I know how they are feeling. They must feel awful that she's missing. We just had a conversation and then I asked him if I could go and search the whole property, for a sign of Teresa or her vehicle, and he gave us permission. Now, Miss Sturm, prior to your arrival at that location, had you had any contact or direction from any law enforcement officials? No, sir, we didn't. After obtaining permission or consent from Earl Avery to search the property, what did you do? Earl said that the roads were very muddy in the salvage yard, and it would be better if we just walked. So, we locked up our vehicle and walked to the left. We decided we were going to sweep from the left to the right, so we walked down in between the buildings, I believe it was, and started on the left and sweeped to the right. And they talk a bunch about sweeping and blah blah blah. She says, I believe we walked through here and then we searched these vehicles, so she's like pointing to the exhibit. And then the court interjects in between this and says, maybe we should ask the witness a few questions to orient the direction. Judge, before we do that, could we approach for a sidebar, which takes place? And then Attorney Kratz continues, I'm sorry, Miss Sturm, do you know orienting yourself to Exhibit 25, do you know which way is north or south? Well, actually, I didn't before, but I looked on the map and it appears that the car was on the southeast corner. Let me double check if I have the aerial 25 that he keeps referring to. I think so. I do. Let me just download it because I can't seem to find it. I thought I had it. Oh, yes, I do. Here it is. Here it is. All right, so this is the aerial photo. This is what, huge, right? I mean, this is the property. Look how big it is. So here's the road that she was. Oh, you can't even see my mouse. Sorry. At the top left corner is the road where you can see the three-pronged fork. Like there were three ways you could go. You could go around the building into the area between all those buildings, or on the other side of the building. So as you can see, I mean, this property is huge, and this is what they had to search. And they had an aerial bird's eye view with a guy in a chopper, and they still couldn't find Teresa's car. But yet, Pam's gonna go in and find it in minutes, mere minutes, which doesn't make any sense to me. All right, so no, they're talking about orienting herself south, north, pointing, blah blah blah. Okay, let me ask some clarifying questions. Does this exhibit help you explain to the jury where you folks looked and searched? Yes, if I zoomed in a little bit. I don't know what photo they're talking about now. All right, so that's the building, and then I believe I went in between, and she went around here, and when we searched all the vehicles, we went up and down and up and down. So she's just basically like showing, she's talking a lot. She could really just be a little faster and more succinct. All right, question. I'm going to take you through this and help you explain for the record what you were talking about. You continued in a southerly direction, you and Nicole, basically walking south, looking through the vehicles. Is that right? Yes. Right. Okay, so now which batch of vehicles did you search? If you can explain the kind of searching that you were doing. I'm sure the jury is going to be interested in that as well. Okay, I started up here, and up here are trucks, cars, RVs, and we tried to look in and each and every one. And you can see there are rows here. So there, I mean, as you saw from the aerial photo, it's just everywhere. There's cars everywhere. So how do you even begin to search like that? And we had tried to look in each and every car, and you can see there are rows here. Okay. Again, you are pointing to an area that would be just south of the business outbuildings. Is that right? So just south of the businesses, all those buildings that you see with the white roofs. It's just south of that, apparently. She says, right. Okay. And you moved to a different batch of cars, is that right? Right. So we had searched all of those. Then we went down here south, and there were, like, you can see there were 2 rows here. So I searched the first row. My daughter was in the second row. I'm going to stop you right there, Pam. Can you tell the jury what you were looking for? We were looking for any trace of Teresa, be it the car or herself. Did you find, by the way, when you searched those 2 rows of cars, any vehicle that either matched the description of Teresa's or anything that you thought was obvious? No. Where did you go then? Then we continued south, and I searched these vehicles, and my daughter searched these. I'm going down to, okay, I'm going to stop you there. You're pointing, I'm going to skip through all this because there's a lot of garbage here. Oh, here. Okay. After looking at these rows of cars, where did you look then? Okay, then my daughter went to this row, and I had continued up here, and I saw these vehicles up here, and this is like a ridge up here, and it's shaped like a bowl, the quarry. So up on the top, there was just car path up here, and she's not making any sense. So I went up there, and I went through like these cars, and I came upon this car. that had all these branches on the top of it leaning against it, and there was an old hood of a car there up against it, and it was kind of bluish green, and I thought, this is really strange. This is really strange. And it looked like a little SUV, like I was looking for, an RV, a Toyota, I'm sorry, a RAV4, a Toyota SUV. And I went around to the back of the vehicle, and again, there were branches leaning up against it, and I noticed that it said RAV4. Well, my heart started going, oh my goodness, maybe this is it. Let me stop you right there. All right, sorry, Miss Sturm, I have showed you what has now been marked as Exhibit 385. That's the first vehicle. What's the number? 3. I'm sorry, Exhibit 29. What? Okay, so I do have 29. I thought I did. No, I don't have 29. All right, I have others. I'll show you in a second here. Do you see that? Okay, it's 385 on my list. All right, correct. Okay, correct. Blah, blah, blah. Now you spoke to the jury just before about seeing the back of this vehicle and seeing the word RAV4 on it. Is exhibit number 29. Does that look the same or similar as to what you saw on the morning of November 5th? Yes. In fact, Miss Sturm, were these photos, that is, the next 6 photos that we're going to see, numbers 29 through 35, those were taken by your daughter Nicole with your assistance on the morning of the 5th of November. Yes, that's correct. And do exhibits 29 through 34, all appear the same or similar as they did on the 5th of November? Yes. We're going to go through those in just a minute, but since you mentioned the back of the vehicle, I want to show you this picture. What else do you see? I looked for the license plate on the front and on the back, and I couldn't find any. I noticed Lemieux Toyota was on the back, but I didn't know if it was on Teresa's car. Let me stop you. In fact, on Exhibit 29, you can see the Lemieux Toyota sticker on the back of the exhibit. Is that right? Right. All right. You mentioned, I think that part of your observations were that the vehicle had some other debris on it. Let me just show you this exhibit, which is, I think, 31. All right. I'm going to have you describe it. Well, that's the front of the vehicle, and it appears to be some kind of door frame up against the vehicle, and then you will see on the bottom there's a piece of plywood propped against the front passenger side. Why don't you, I'm sorry to stop you, why don't you do your best? You can laser pointer and show me the door frame that it was propped up against. I thought this was the door frame here. All right. And then there was a piece of plywood. That's plywood there. And there's an old hood of a car, not from a Toyota, propped against the car right here. And you can see all these branches against the car too. And then the top of the car too. Now, in this exhibit, this is exhibit number 31. You can see the front license plate, that there is no front license plate. Is that what you saw that morning as well? Yes, that's correct. By the way, these exhibits 29 through 34, are they identical to what you and Nicole saw that morning? They are identical. How do you know that? Because we actually took the photos of this car. So exhibits 29 through 34 were taken with what? With the digital camera I got from Scott. My daughter, Nicole Sturm, took the pictures of the vehicle. And how close were you when she took them? I was right next to her, so all of these pictures were images that you saw. Yes. Now, Miss Sturm, I know that you are no expert, and I'm not going to ask for an expert opinion at all, but from what you saw, especially on Exhibit 31, did it appear that those items had been intentionally placed there? I thought so. I thought it was obscuring the view of the car, or even like a camouflage on the car. That's what I thought, to camouflage the car. Let me go through the rest of them here, and he talks about all of them. And while they do that, I'm going to skip through and skip through some of that. And I'm going to show you Exhibit 31. This is how they found the car. Exhibit 32. Whoops. Hide that one. This is just the tire there. Exhibit 32. Exhibit 34. There's the top. There's even a branch on the top of the car. Exhibit 33. I think I skipped that one. So you can see it's like right up next to this other car here. Like, so you wouldn't, it does appear very hidden, in my opinion. There's 30. I think that's the hood, the rusty old hood that was leaning up against it. There's the RAV4, the back part of it, the branches. It was meant to look like it was hidden, in my opinion. And I think Nicole Sturm might have been given directions or something along the lines of go and look for this car that's hidden, possibly from law enforcement. I don't know. I'm just going through them all again just so you could all get a good view. All right, so back up 1 second. And finally, exhibit number 34, would you be looking at the left side, bottom of the top of the vehicle is showing some branches and other debris. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. When you saw this, Miss Sturm, what did you do? My daughter was still searching to the right of me. I couldn't see her. I became very, very worried for our safety because 90% of this was probably Teresa's car. 90%. This was probably Teresa's car and we're in danger. Okay. So I called Nicole's name. I think maybe I even screamed. I shouldn't have, but I did. And I went running to the area where she was. I said, Nicole, Nicole, you have to come to see this car. It must be her car. So she came up by me and she looked at it and she said, Mom, it does look like her car. It's got that Lemieux Toyota and it's RAV4. And she thought perhaps it was too. Ms. Sturm, after making those observations, did you attempt to verify the identification of this vehicle? Yes. And how was that done? My daughter Nicole brought her cell phone along and I should back up. Ryan gave us a direct line to Sheriff Poggle in case we found something. So I dialed Sheriff Poggle's number and at that point I got voicemail. I thought, oh no, I need to talk to the sheriff, and it said something about if you want to go back to the dispatcher, dial 0. So we did, and we came back to the dispatcher, and I said, we need to talk to Sheriff Pagel now. I think I found the vehicle. So she switched us over directly to Sheriff Pagel. I need a breath. That was a lot. She's something, this lady. She talks a lot. Exhibit number 35, Ms. Sturm, is an audio recording. I'm going to have you listen to it, and I'm going to ask you if this is in fact the phone call that you placed just about 10:30 in the morning on Saturday, November 5th. I hope it is loud enough and audible. Okay, so I am actually going to play it for you. I can breathe. I can catch my breath after doing her long-winded answers. All right, let's do this. So here we go. I'm going to play the clip, and you'll also see the audio to the best of the court reporter's ability. So here we go. Let me make sure that my thing isn't on like point. No, it's on normal. Okay. I always watch things in sped up, so I want to make sure it's slowed down. Here you go. Let's begin. The call's transferred.
Dispatch. Okay, I called to Mr. Pagel's answering service was on. Okay. Okay. Okay, we are at Avery Salvage. Okay. Okay, and we're searching for the vehicle. Right. For Teresa Halbach. We have found a RAV4. What color specifically was her RAV4? And do you have a VIN number? This vehicle is green. Okay, this, I don't know, this is like a 801. Bluish green. Okay, do you have the ID number? Oh, hold on. 801. Can you call dispatch right away? Do we have a VIN number? The VIN number. It's not on the side, Nick. Go on the other side. Hold on. Here's Jerry.
Hi, this is Sheriff Hoggle.
Oh, Sheriff Hoggle. Hi, this is Pam Sturm. I'm on the search for Teresa Halbach, and we found a RAV4.
You did?
It's a bluish green, though. It's more blue than green. We just wanted to know if you got the VIN number for that vehicle.
Yes, we do. We do have a VIN number.
Don't
get the VIN number.
I can't find it on the...
Where is the vehicle at?
I'm at Avery Salvage.
Okay.
It is all covered up.
It's all covered up?
Not all covered, but it's got a lot of stuff on it. Branches.
I don't have my glasses. It's got branches over it?
Yeah. Where's the VIN number on something like this?
Well, the VIN number would probably be on the windshield or underneath on the dash, driver's side.
Yeah, driver's side, yes.
Looks through the front window.
Through the front window.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you Investigator Wiggert. He's got the VIN number here.
Okay.
Hi. Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah, we can't find that VIN number.
What color is it?
It is bluish green.
Does it look like a newer one?
Yeah, it's the 99 to 2000.
Is there any...
More of a bluish green, though. That's why we don't want to put,
Is there any license plates on it?
No plates on it, but it's a little covered up. It's weird. It's covered up.
Okay.
Some of this...
Can you get to the front of the car?
Yeah, I will. It's Lemieux Toyota sticker on it. Does that have a...
I don't know if they had a Lemieux Toyota sticker on it. I don't know about that.
Is that okay if I go in the car?
No, do not go in the car. Do not touch the car.
Yeah.
Stay on the outside of the car. Go over to the front on the driver's side.
Yeah, I realize that. I'm in the business, so I kind of know, but I can't find a VIN number. I'm picking up the wipers.
Okay.
Can't find the VIN number. Isn't it funny? Well, here it is, Nick. I don't have my glasses.
You don't have your glasses
right
either.
There? My daughter's with me.
Okay.
Okay, now hang on. The last four digits. 3044.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find it here again. 3044?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go even more in?
I don't know. Nick, can you look at any other numbers? There's some people out here, so we have to be careful. And, there's some, I don't know if they're employees or who they are, but they're like... Okay, Nikki, just...
Can you see any other numbers?
Yeah. Say it real slow, Nick. Can't see the very beginning numbers, but here goes. T0, Z, 5, X, 7, a 1 or a T, a 1 or a T.
Okay, where are you?
30, is that the number?
Where are you?
No, you're going to tell me if this is the car.
Okay, stop. I can't tell you anything. Where are you?
I'm at Avery Salvage.
Okay, are you on their property?
Yes, I am.
With their permission or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, stay right where you are. Do not touch anything. Do not go anywhere around that vehicle. Stay right where... What's your phone number?
Is this it?
I don't know that.
Okay.
What's your phone number?
What's your phone number, Nick? 920-941. 0211.
I'll call him on the way.
This is long distance. You need to dial the entire number.
Okay. Stay where you are. Do not touch the vehicle. Do not let anybody else touch the vehicle.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it, Nick.
And I will be calling you shortly, okay?
Well, I hope you can get me, you know.
Okay, just stay where you are. I'll find you.
Well, we asked this guy real nice to come in here, so I hope...
If you have a problem, you dial 911.
Gotcha.
We'll be on our way. We're going to have somebody over there as soon as possible.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Isn't that weird? Like, there's some weird things that happen in that conversation. All right, so Attorney Kratz continues. Let me ask you again, Ms. Sturm, that audio conversation that you heard between yourself, Sheriff Gerald Pagel, and Investigator Mark Wiegert, is that a true and accurate version of the conversation? She says, yes, it is. He moves to admit it, no objection, and they've identified... Oh, wait, what? And as they have identified, Judge, I am going to move the admissions to 29. Okay. Move through all the admissions. Ms. Sturm, were any other, about this time, were any other investigative behaviors or actions taken with the SUV? Do you understand my question? I don't understand. Did you or your daughter, Nikki, attempt to determine whether or not this vehicle was open or locked? Nicole attempted to open the doors. Did she do that with a bare hand, or did you see her doing this? I told her to use the sleeve or a sweatshirt, but evidently she used tissue. You know, I saw her reach in, but I'm not sure if it was, you know, I didn't exactly see the tissues. So, yes, and she did try the doors, but you will have to ask her which specific doors. I will do that, but did you or your daughter determine whether or not the doors were open or locked? They were all locked. Did you or your daughter ever otherwise enter that vehicle? No. Did you or your daughter otherwise touch the vehicle? No, just the windshield wiper. After Investigator Wiegert told you to step away from the vehicle and to not touch it further, did you and Nikki do that? Yes, we did. We probably went, I don't know, probably about 1,000 yards, again, on directions. I'm terrible. Well, at that point, we're not going to, ask you to guess. Back to exhibit number 25 then, Ms. Sturm, let's go back just very briefly. Could you show us again, or show the jury again, the location to the best that you can recall where your vehicle was discovered? It was up on this ridge. And you were pointing to a ridge or a berm area to the immediate south of that pond. Is that right? That's correct. That would be the area farthest or furthest southernmost point of the Avery property. Is that your understanding? That's correct. Just so you know, what did I say? Just so that we're not talking south or north, to be the right of the pond. Is that right? That's correct. You mentioned that after calling dispatch, after reporting the discovery of this vehicle, you and your daughter went to a location on the property. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. Where was that? Well, I was up here, okay, because that's where I found the vehicle, and you can look over to this quarry over here. So I went to the highest point, and that was almost the highest point anyhow, but I just had to look to see if Teresa was over there. So then I looked over there, and then we proceeded down there. And over here is a car compactor, and we were over here, and I put my daughter behind the car because I thought we were in danger, and I just stayed out here. Like, what? What is she even talking about? Like, sorry, I couldn't find my water bottle. Like, what? I don't, she's crazy. I don't mean to call her crazy, but she seems really flustered and all over the place. So I'm going to skip now through to her cross-examination by Jerry Buting, who does a really great, I think it's Buting. Yeah, Attorney Buting. it's going to do cross, and then that will be the end of this episode. So for this episode, let's keep going. All right. Question. Now, ma'am, you on the dispatch tape, we heard you say, I know I'm sort of in the business. By that you mean you have private investigator experience, right? That's correct. You used to be a licensed private investigator, right? That's correct. So you had some idea what to do and how to do the search, right? Some idea. So is it your testimony that before Saturday morning, November 5th, you had not done anything in terms of investigating or searching for Teresa or her vehicle? No, I haven't. And after that, did you also do any additional investigation on your own? Yes, I did. And were you, in fact, called to an area near Mishicot by some individuals who had found that they thought might be some evidence? Who had found what they thought it might be some evidence? I don't recall being called by someone, no. Well, were you with somebody looking in the Mishicot area? We were in the Mishicot area, and I spoke with some of the business owners in Mishicot. Those were bars, right? That's correct. And they were down near the river. No, the river is about a quarter mile from the actual town. Okay, and what day was that? I'm not sure. Well, was it Saturday night? Was it nighttime or daytime? No, it was during the day. So, it's honking their horn. I don't know what's going on. All right, no, it was during the day. So it was, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Something's going down in the neighborhood. All right, I just heard sirens. All right, so one of those days that I had a day off and wanted to help out. And what was the purpose, your purpose in going to the bars and talking to those, to see business owners, to see if anyone knew anything about Teresa or had seen Teresa? Okay, and were you passing out your name and phone number or anything like that for people? I don't recall doing that, no. Do you remember being called to an area near the river, a turnaround area near the river, by one of those individuals from the bar area to look at some? I know I had searched around the river area, and then at that point, we, meeting one of the bar owners in town, said he would come down and help me out. And on the search, we had found a cell phone. And that was that bar owner's, and what was that bar owner's name? I don't recall. Do you know an individual by the name of John Campion? I'm not sure if that was his name or not. Okay. And you found a cell phone down by the river. Yes. And also some business papers, some sort of papers nearby. I don't recall any papers. But the cell phone you thought might be important? I thought perhaps it was important. For all you know, it could have been Teresa's, right? Could have been. So what did you do? I called the sheriff's department and someone came down and photographed the cell phone. And who was that? Mr. Wiegert? No, I'm not sure exactly who it was. I believe I got his card though. Was he plainclothes? No, he was wearing a deputy's brown uniform. Or he was wearing a deputy's brown uniform? That's correct. Which county sheriff are we talking about? I'm not sure. Well, this is Mishicot, so that's Manitowoc County, right? I would assume. So you would assume that it was probably a Manitowoc County Sheriff deputy that came down there, right? There were so many police officers at the Avery salvage yard at that time, it would have been anyone. This wasn't at the Avery salvage yard, was it? No, this was miles away over in Mishicot. A couple miles away, yeah. And the cell phone, you said somebody took pictures of it? That's right. And did that individual also take possession of the cell phone? Yes. And what happened next? We met up with the search party again, and I described the cell phone to one of the Halbachs, I believe, and they said it wasn't Teresa's. Well, did you make any notes of what kind of cell phone it was? I did at that time. I knew what it was. Now I don't recall. Okay, but you didn't take any pictures of your own, though. No. And you don't know what day that is. It could have been Sunday, the 6th. It was after the 5th. Okay, so it could have been the 6th, right? No, I don't think I worked on the 6th. I think I had off on Monday and Tuesday, and I went back to help out. Okay, now you are not a private investigator at this point, right? No, I'm not. And you weren't back in October of 2005. No, I wasn't. You were just helping out as a volunteer for the Halbach family at that time. Yes. And you said that Ryan, when you met on Saturday morning, Ryan Hillagas gave you a direct phone number for Sheriff Poggle. Yes. So evidently he had Sheriff Poggle's direct line. It was either the direct line or the line into the department. Well, when you called it, it got right to Sheriff Poggle's voice on his voicemail, right? Voicemail, yes. Okay, but we did talk to dispatch too. I know that's later though. The number you called just put you right to Sheriff Poggle's voicemail, right? Yes. When you saw the vehicle there up on that ridge and you said you thought it was 90% in your own mind that this might be, in fact, Teresa's vehicle, of course, looked inside for Teresa as well, right? Correct. And you got a decent look inside there because you actually saw some soda bottles too, I think, right? We did see some soda bottles. Okay, and you didn't see Teresa, right? No. And you didn't see any blood, right? Not that we could visually see, no. Okay, well, you didn't see any blood, period. No, okay. And you were looking. What else did you see besides soda bottles? See anything with her name on it? No, I can't remember anything, no. Okay, if I understand you correctly, did you say that you actually found this vehicle within 10 minutes of your search? No, sir. I thought you said that you went in at 10:10 and you found it at, or 10 minutes to 10. Is that right? That's correct. Okay, I misunderstood. I apologize. So you found it within 30 minutes, 35 or so. That's correct. Which is still completely unbelievable. That lot had 4,000 cars in it. How did she find Teresa's car in 30 minutes? Doesn't make any sense to me. And when you walked up that ridge, it was the only car with the kind of branches or wood or debris put on top of it, right? That I saw, yes. All the other ones looked like they do in the photograph here. They are generally visible, not camouflaged or anything of that sort, right? I guess I didn't look any further down the line, so I couldn't really say absolutely for sure. Okay, but of the vehicles, of the area you did look through, which would have been from the buildings in the upper left corner, where actually is the northeast corner, south all the way to to that edge of the Avery property, you didn't see any other vehicles that appeared to have been obscured or covered with anything? No. So this one was unique of all the other vehicles that you saw, right? And it was about the right color, and it was an RV. I keep saying RV, a RAV4. Oh my God, brain, stop it. It was a RAV4. A RAV4. I used to have a RAV4, and now I can't even say it. I say an RV. Okay. And to you, it looked pretty obvious that this was something or somebody just trying to camouflage this, right? It appeared to be that way. But it was actually double parked along that ridge of vehicles on the left, or I'm sorry, on that car path you mentioned behind the pond, right? Right. Those were a single line of cars, and this one was double parked, right? Next to one? Right. On the tape, I heard you say something, I think, about there were people nearby while you were at the scene and calling in to report this. When we first walked down the quarry, that's a simple yes or no. Were there people? You said something about there being people nearby, right? Yes. And these appear to be other customers or something milling about. I can't say for sure, but I thought perhaps they were getting parts off of vehicles. Okay, like customers would do there, right? Right. And Steven Avery wasn't one of them, I assume, right? Right. No. And you mentioned a man on the ridge or not on the ridge, but up on the hill, kind of back towards the buildings where you were sitting there waiting for 20 minutes, correct? And Steven Avery wasn't that man either, was he? I don't know for sure. Well, who was that man? Do you know? I don't know. Do you have any description of him? No, sir. Was it the same? Was it Earl Avery? It could have been. It's just too far away to see. So you just wasn't anything in particular about the man or what he was doing that caused you concern. It was just the overall feeling you had that maybe this wasn't the safest place to be. Is that fair? That's fair, yes. Okay, and until the police arrived, you weren't about to we're about to finish up, Judge. I don't know. Okay, until the police arrived, you were trying to keep an eye on the vehicle, make sure none of the other customers or anybody else would walk near it, right? That's correct. But once the police arrived, then that was their job, right? No, we kept our eye on it. So once Manitowoc arrived, you were concerned about Manitowoc police approaching that vehicle, about anyone approaching or touching that vehicle. And so you kept a good eye to make sure that none of the Manitowoc people would do that, that anyone would do that. But it's not her job to make sure that nobody touches the car. But if you were about 1,000, what did you say? 1,000 yards away, 1,000 feet. I'm not very good at distance, right? Right by the car compactor. Okay. But then after Detective Fremaker arrived, you went back over by to the left on this picture. Did you not? I think you said that you went about 1,000 yards away. Could you rephrase that? I believe maybe I misunderstood you, but I thought you said that you walked about 1,000 yards away from where the vehicle was when Detective Wiegert arrived, and that is exactly what she said. Like I said, I'm not very good at distance. Would say 3 football fields. Now I'm trying to judge the distance that way. 3 football fields? Okay, 900 yards. 1,000 yards, close enough. And you weren't, okay, so 900 yards, 1,000 yards, close enough. And you weren't paying attention at that point then to what was going on with the car from the big of distance away once, from that big of a distance away once Investigator Wiegert arrived. I'm sorry, that sounded horrible. Let me reread that. And you weren't paying attention at that point then to what was going on with the car from that big of a distance away once Investigator Wiegert arrived, right? Attorney Kratz says, Judge, I'm sorry, I know it's late, but a football field is only 100 yards. 3 of them wouldn't be 900 if my math. Attorneys talking over each other. You are right. I'm sorry. It's late. 900 feet. But after Wiegert arrived, you were talking to Investigator Wiegert, gave an oral statement to him, right? Right. And you talked to Dettering and gave an oral and written statement to him, right? Correct. So you weren't paying attention to what was going on with the car at that point. You were giving oral statements, oral and written, right? We were facing the vehicle. While you were sitting there writing a statement, or did you not write it? Objection, argumentative, and she said she watched the vehicle the whole time. I don't know how many times she has to say that. The court says, well, he's allowed to ask a question about writing and watching the field at the same time. I will allow the question. Did you handwrite the statement yourself? Yes. Thank you. No further questions. So I'm going to end it there. on a little bit. I mean, I think, does she come back? Not really. I think that, that was pretty much it. Yeah. All right. So, what are we going to talk about next time? We're going to hear, the next episode is going to be strictly Bobby Dassey testimony. So we've got Bobby Dassey all by his lonesome, because he's going to be one that's going to take a little while. And then we're going to get into some of the investigators like Fassbender and Wiegert. And yeah, so we've got a lot still coming up. And this was just, I mean, we're still on day 2 right now, but we are going to advance then to day 3. So let me get you on this screen here. I wanted to, that's a good way to wrap up. So Pam Sturm was the final witness of the day on day 2. So now we scroll up and go to day 3, which is February 14th, 2007. The first witness that is called to the stand is Nicole Sturm. We're not going to listen, or we're not going to read through hers, because we got pretty much everything we needed to about finding the car through Pam, who we just listened to. I'm going to take that off. Pam's not talking anymore. Whoops. There. All right. So, what was I saying? So, day 3 begins with Nicole Sturm, daughter of Pam. We're not going to read through it because we got what we needed from Pam. And then Bobby Dassey is called to the stand following Nicole. And then there's a trooper, Timothy Austin, who's a reconstructionist, who we're not going to get into either. He basically created a forensic mapping of the Avery yard using a bunch of measurements, and why it's necessary, I don't think it is. So we're just going to read Bobby Dassey's, and that'll get us to day 3. So please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and join me next time when we get into the state's case part 3 and get into Bobby Dassey's testimony. Thank you so much for watching this with me. Thank you so much for going through this whole ride with me, because it is a ride going through all this stuff. So I really appreciate you being here. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.